Hey friends, and welcome to the Happy Hour with Jamie Ivey podcast. I'm your host, Jamie, and I'm so glad you're here. Each week on this show, I invite a girlfriend to join me and we chat about the big things in life, the little things in life, and everything in between. Today's show is brought to you by Joybird. With Joybird, you get one-of-a-kind furniture crafted to your unique taste. From rich, buttery leather to the plushest velvet you've ever felt, find the fabric and texture that's right for you. Joybird even offers a range of kid and pet-friendly upholstery options that stand the test of time. Plus, they have a free personal design consultant to help nail down your perfect design. See how Joybird can help you design your dream space and make furniture your own at joybird.com/happyhour25. That's joybird.com/happyhour25 to create the furniture that brings you joy today. Don't forget, get 25% off your first order by using the code happyhour25 when you go to joybird.com/happyhour25. Guys, welcome back to another show. This is episode number 264, and we are right in the middle of September if you're listening to us live. If not, whenever you listen, we're happy that you're here. But my guest today is Rebekah Lyons. Before I tell you about Rebekah, I do want to let you know that if you're listening to this in real time and you happen to be going to If Lead this week in Dallas, come say hi. I absolutely love meeting listeners. In fact, just recently at church, a sweet young girl came up to me and she said, "Hey, I'm visiting from San Diego. I listened to your show." And I said, "Thank you so much for listening. I honestly really do like meeting you guys." So anyhow, if you're at If Lead in Dallas, come say hi. So my guest today is my friend Rebekah Lyons. Now, Rebekah was recently one of our guests at Happy Hour Live, and she was also a Happy Hour guest way back on episode number 129. So over 140 episodes ago, Rebekah and I sat down, and so she's back today. There's something I know about every single time I sit down with Rebekah. Number one, we're going to laugh. Rebekah is funny. Number two, we're going to cry. Rebekah really gives great space for deep conversations. And number three, we're going to worship. Rebekah is a truth teller, and I am 100% for that. On today's show, we talk about how God brought their joy to their family in the last year through their daughter, Joy. We also talk about how much of what Rebekah's new book, Rhythms of Renewal, came from a relapse and a crippling battle with anxiety, worry, and fear. You know, this topic of renewal and rest is for everyone. It's been coming up a lot. Even last week with Dr. Sandra Dalton-Smith on the show, we talked about rest a lot and how it can be crippling in our lives. And here we are. It's coming up again with Rebekah. And I see it around me and I can't help but know that that is God who's speaking to us. And I hope that you, like me, might use this time to ask God, how can I be intentional in this area of rest and restoration and connecting and creating for this life that He's given me? That's my prayer. I hope that's your prayer as well. I know you're going to love this conversation because I loved it when I sat down with Rebekah when we recorded this. But before we get to that, I do want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to all of our friends who are part of Patreon. Patreon is this fun community that we have developed. And this past month, we've had so many new friends join us. Because if you did our survey we had a couple months ago, you got an invite to join Patreon for the month of September for a low, almost free price. So I promise Patreon's fun. But more than that, those who have joined our Patreon party, here's what you're helping us do. And I hope that you understand that this is really, really valuable for us, is that you're helping us make an impact in the world through everything that happens at the happy hour. Sometimes this can feel like it's just a podcast that we put out there and people listen to it. But I really want you to know, because of the partnership that you have with us over on Patreon, we're actually creating more ways that we can share the message that Jesus is better, that together we are all better, and that we all have a story that matters. That's been a constant theme over at Patreon this past month. So I would like to personally invite you to join us on Patreon, to partner with us in spreading the good news of Jesus that we get to do through a crazy podcast called The Happy Hour. I sometimes still talk to God and say, I can't believe that you let me tell the world about you through a podcast. I'm eternally grateful for that. And I'm so grateful for those of you that are partnering with us so that we can even make more content and get more information out there. So if you're interested, go to jamieivey.com/Patreon. If you have any questions, always send us an email, jamie@jamieivey.com. Okay, you guys, Here's my conversation with my friend, Rebekah Lyons. Rebekah, welcome to the happy hour.
Thank you. This is fun.
It's good to have you here. The last time you were on the show was number 129.
Yeah.
And this is in the 260 somethings.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. A lot of life has happened.
That's true. For both of us.
For both of us. I actually remember the first time I interviewed you, it wasn't for my show. You may not even remember this. I think, I could be wrong, I think I interviewed you for an If Gathering podcast.
Oh.
Were you at, it was like a resort?
Yep. We call it Baby If.
Baby If.
That retreat weekend? Do you remember?
Yeah. And let me tell you about that a little bit is I knew Jenny because we went to church together, but I was not doing the happy hour at Baby If.
Oh.
No, I didn't have a show.
Okay.
And Jenny just invited me to come out and do this because I had been on a radio DJ, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I guess she thought, oh, Jamie could do this. And I sat in that hotel room and interviewed people, so many people who I would now call today friends.
Isn't that fun?
That I had never met. I didn't know anything about any of these people.
Yes. Same. I didn't know anyone that weekend but a couple.
Really?
And I had flown in from New York and I had only met Jenny like 6 months prior, actually.
This is not a podcast about Jenny, it's about you, but how'd you meet Jenny?
Through, I think Brad Lominick connected she and I.
Isn't that his job? Connecting people?
He is the connect. I think he connected us at Passion with me and Lindsay Nobles, and Cade was there with me.
Okay.
And I remember like we were sitting on bar stools at some like breakout at the arena, whatever, and Cade just kept like burping and laughing the whole time. And I was like, yeah, this is me and my man-child who's just trying to flirt with you guys right now.
I love it so much. I love it. And then If Baby, and then If.
I feel like I should clarify a little bit about Cade, but they're like,
you should clarify.
Your son just burps when you meet people. That's great. No, Cade is a flirt and he's 18 now, which is crazy. But he was probably 14 at the time. But he, was born with Down syndrome. And so he loves all the pretty girls. And so whatever it takes to get their attention.
He's going to do it.
Yeah. He'll hug. He'll linger. We're like, that's enough. That's good.
We're good. I can't believe he's 18.
I know. February this year, I have a literally adult human child.
Okay. So introduce everybody to your family because you have 4 kids. Tell us their ages and
yes. So
all the
Kate's
stuff.
18. Pierce is 16. Kennedy's 14. And now we have Joy, who's just turned 6. We've had her for 9 months.
So you have, she started kindergarten?
Yes, this week.
And what grade is Kate in?
Kate's a senior. Just,
You were just, you're like, hey, let's not be like an empty nester house. Let's start over.
No, I know. We thought we were going to be empty nesters in 5 years, and now we're back in kindergarten. So there are Down syndrome bookends. It's crazy. I say bookends like I'm playing
God
and that we're done. I hope we are, unless God decides. You are
not definite about that.
Well, if I am, it's going to come back to bite me because I remember telling Kennedy about Joy or about adoption years ago. I'm like, it's not going to happen. So I've just learned in life, I don't definitively say that nothing's not going to happen because if I do, it will likely happen. So this is more just to just
it's protection. It's self-protection.
It's to me to just release control, girl, because I have been a control freak for earlier part in my life. I try to not be like that so much now.
Okay, so 4 kids, bookends, both born with Down syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
What led you guys to adopt and then to adopt your daughter with special needs?
Well, so when we had Cade, Pierce, and Kennedy, all 2 years apart, I had emergency C-section for Cade and then just kept having more with Kennedy and Pierce. So after 3 of them, my doctor's like, it's not great for you to have any more kids from, just the way the shape that your body's in. And I remember telling Gabe, if it's a girl, because we didn't find out with Kennedy, I said, if it's a girl and I'm already, but in the middle of a C-section, I would like to get my tubes tied. And I was only 31, so I don't know that I would recommend that. Mm-hmm. But in my mind, I was like, I'm maxed out. Cade didn't walk till he was 3 or go number 2 in the potty till he's 6. So,
and then you already had, by the time he's 6, you already have 2
I had 3
kids.
in diapers at that point still. And I just was about to have 3 in diapers. And I was like, I'm out. Like, we're good. We're full. And so he said, only if you're open to adoption. Immediately.
That's what Gabe said.
Oh, yeah. I will never forget it. We were in the pool on a baby moon in like the Bahamas. And
I like that kind of baby moon you guys are
every
on.
year we would go somewhere sunny. So my belly would be like, 7 months big in some swimsuit. But for whatever reason, that's what we did. And he said, immediately, only if you're open to adoption. And I was like, well, of course I'm open. I mean, I love God.
Right. I love that. Like, I'm not going to say no.
I'm open. But you know what? at what range of openness are you referring to? And so it became a 3-minute conversation about every 3 years ever since.
Really?
Yeah. So we moved to New York. That became our 4th baby, it felt like, because I was like overwhelmed with all the things. And we were sharing an apartment, all 5 of us, obviously, downtown, I think 1,000 square feet. And the 3 kids were in the master bedroom like 3 bears, like lined up in twin beds. And Gabe and I would fall in the second bedroom and there's the bed. And so it never felt like a realistic thing in New York. But once we got to Nashville 5 years ago, it started coming back up again. And I remember 2 years in, so 3 years ago, I pulled in my garage in my minivan. And you know how the kids go in and you stay in the garage because you just want it to stay quiet?
Yeah.
And I just remember saying, God, if you want this to happen, I need you to bring her right here. Like put her photo right in front of my face and I'll name her Joy. And it had come after, a 7-year run of like coming out of depression and anxiety. And I just kept claiming, restored me the joy of my salvation. And Psalm 126, like if you sow in tears, you'll reap a harvest with songs of joy. And so 2 years later, I get a text photo right in front of my face of a girl in Beijing from my friend Meredith. And she said her file's going to the States tomorrow. And I was like, at this
Did
point,
you know about Joy?
No.
So Meredith, since you, I know you're friends, so it's like you hadn't texted before, but this is a random, this little girl.
She would sometimes send me photos of kids with Down syndrome she'd get, but it was like, oh, that's sweet. That's cute. But like, it was off the table for us. We were about to have our 20th anniversary. And I said, why are you doing this to me?
To the Lord or to Meredith?
To both.
To both.
Because sometimes I'm like, I feel like she speaks for God sometimes.
Right,
I'm like, why are you doing this? Mm-hmm. And I said, she's adorable. What's her name? And she said, Cara. And I said, do you mean the Greek word for joy?
You did not. You knew that.
Uh-huh.
Because you're a smart Bible teacher.
Well, and I have Ann Boskamp to thank because Eucharisteo, when she wrote 1,000 Gifts, she always talked about CHARA is the root word for joy, giving thanks and praise. And I was with Ann Boskamp like 3 international trips that one year she was adopting. And she and Meredith would be up all night on Boxer, like just talking about everything going on. And I was like, okay, this is a lot in my face. And I had to wrestle with it. And then so I told Gabe.
Had you told Gabe about the in my face, then it's a yes. Okay.
Yeah. So I think he forgot. I'm pretty sure he forgot. Because again, 2 years had gone by and we were not at all thinking that direction. And so then the next day I was like kind of reluctant and nervous to show him her photo. And he's like, she's cute. But, again, I feel like we're good. And then he watched The Beatitudes Project by Studio. Have you seen?
No.
He texted me like the next day. It had only been 2 days. And he said, we need to talk about Cara. And I was like, okay. And he's like, I believe it's an invitation into something. And this will matter probably more than anything we do to God. And I was like, you were supposed to be my out.
Right. I was depending on you to say we are at max capacity.
Yeah. But and Gabe's like a man of such conviction that once he says yes, why would we even bother talking about it anymore?
It's like we're in.
Yeah. I needed a little longer.
Yeah.
But, we were matched within 3 weeks and brought her home within a year. So it's crazy.
And how is life 9 months later?
She is every bit her name, as you guys know, if you follow my Joystagram. It's like I feel like she's hijacked my Instagram, but she's just got such a sweet, nurturing spirit in her, which is remarkable for me. Being an orphan, she was left at a hospital at 4 months, and in an orphanage that whole time, except for the 1 year she was with Meredith. She went back the 7 months before we brought her home. But it's remarkable to me, like how nurturing she is with babies, and like even Kate, she'll be like, it's okay. It's okay. Oh, so sorry. It's sorry. Like she just wants to make sure all her people are good. Mm-hmm. And she's obviously the most secure when we're all together. And they say attachment, needs at least 3 to 6 months to form. And now we're at 9 months. And I feel like in the last month, especially before going back to school, she really kind of is walking around the house like confident in who she is as ours, which is really sweet.
It's cool to see that. And I think that's hard to explain until you actually live with that 24/7. Mm-hmm. And you do start to see these little minor things that nobody would really notice. And you go, oh, they feel safe because they just did that. Yeah. Where it would look like complete normal things for a typical kid who'd been in a family his entire life from birth. You see them do something and you go, that means she feels safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are fun moments.
It is. I know you know.
Yeah.
I love watching you guys.
I even think this is crazy. I'm about to blow your mind. October and January will be 10 years since our kids have been home.
Are you serious?
Yes. It's like a decade.
Wow.
And I just think obviously I have memories before they were here, but my oldest kids were like 6 and 4 when they came home. Or my other kids. But I look back and I think, man, I still see moments where I go, oh, you feel unsafe or you feel really safe. And we're 10 years in, and so it's this continual thing. And it's almost like, I don't want to over spiritualize it, but I sometimes feel even like this in my relationship with the Lord. I've been following Jesus for 20 years. And there are sometimes I do things and I go, I really trust you so much with this. And I can tell, but because of the way I'm reacting to discipline or, change or whatever it might be, I go, I'm starting to really trust you. In 20 years,
Right.
And we're still doing that.
I know. And it's so sweet because even with adopting her, I just kept asking God, like, does this mean I quit working again? Because, I didn't have my own thing the first 15 years of marriage. So really only in the last 6 or 7 years have I been writing and teaching, traveling. And do I quit writing or teaching or traveling? And God just kept saying, do you trust me? There was no answer. I was like, yeah, that's what this is about, isn't it? Just this, I'm willing to lay it all down, but maybe I will, maybe I won't, maybe I won't need to, or maybe it'll look different. But he's just saying, I'm inviting you into something. I'm not trying to give you the whole playbook right now.
That it's a scary place to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had situations in my life where it's like, we don't know what that looks like ahead, but we're just going to keep walking.
And it's almost better that you don't know what you don't know because you have the grace for today and that helps you stay present and it helps you stay dependent.
Yeah.
And really all he's after, what I'm learning in my old age, is that he's after relationship. Yeah. He's after that communion and intimacy. He's like, the journey is so much more fun if you just embrace the journey. Like if you're always looking ahead, but when we get there, it'll all be awesome. No, it's like today is awesome because you're with me.
We talked about this a little bit before we started recording, but we were both friends with Winter Pitt, who passed away last July. And I think about even what you were just saying. Like I think about what her death has shown me is that every single day matters and every single day counts. And I think what I learned the most from her death, and actually I want to ask you, I didn't even plan on this, what you learned the most, but I think what I learned the most is, and I don't know if this was said at the funeral or not, I don't have a memory of that, is that Winter, her life wasn't actually cut short. That this is what God planned for her. And for us, it feels like a disadvantage because we think we should all get 80 years. That's the average. We get 80 years and then we go home and see Jesus and that feels normal. But God actually has purpose in everything. And Winter lived her fullest life of 36, 37 years. And that's what it's shown me is whatever I get is what God wanted me. And I want to live like it all matters. I was telling you before, I don't know, how old are you and Gabe?
I'm 45. He's 44.
Okay. So I'm an older woman too.
I'm 9 months older. I'm I remind him of that.
I know.
Every once in a while.
6 months older. I'm older women make good lovers. I don't know if that's true, but we're going to own it. But I think I was telling you, I want our 40s to count. I want it to be big.
Yeah.
What did losing our friend Winter do for you?
Well, I think so. Jonathan and the girls live right by us and we are in each other's lives every day. And Jonathan has been such a dear friend. And watching him, I was just telling him the other night, I was just watching the way you're an incredible dad. And just watching the way you have walked through this year and processed and invited people in is such an honoring, I feel honored. But one thing I have noticed with Winter's passing is I don't even think I grasped what an incredible mom she was until now, watching her girls and seeing the legacy that is on their lives, just the anointing that's there, the grace, the honesty. I love just Alina's honesty. She's not gonna pretend, and I respect that so much about her. And just the positivity of all of them in general. Not that they're not being honest with pain, but just even still, I will praise you. That kind of idea. We're all in the same church as well, and school. So there's a lot of crossover, but death is, it's a real thing. I lost my dad last April and 3 months before Winter. And it was a year of really having to go you never know how you'll handle death till it comes, but there is such an honoring thing to really look at it and not rush by it. Give it pause, give it weight, honor those people. And you're right. God says all your days are written and planned before one of them begins. So, and his works are wonderful. So it's kind of this like double-edged thing. Like, well, my dad got 78 years, that still felt too soon. So at the end of the day, it's like, what are they leaving behind to the generation behind them? And I think there's going to be a long line there.
I agree. I'm honored that I was able to know her. Okay, guys, I'm going to stop just a small couple of minutes to thank our sponsors because they make today's show happen, and I think you're going to want to hear from these people. First, today's show is sponsored by ZipRecruiter. Hiring can be a challenge, as Codable co-founder Gretchen Hebner discovered. Gretchen needed to hire a game artist for her education tech company. She knew it wouldn't be easy to find someone to grow with her team, and that is exactly why she went to ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you, but it finds them for you. Its technology identifies people with the right experience and invites them to apply to your job. So you get qualified candidates fast. Gretchen posted her job on ZipRecruiter and said she was impressed with how quickly she found qualified applicants. She also used ZipRecruiter's screening questions to filter her candidates so she could focus on the best ones. And that is how Gretchen found a new game artist in less than 2 weeks. With results like that, it's no wonder 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See why ZipRecruiter is effective for businesses of all size. Try ZipRecruiter for free at our web address, ziprecruiter.com/HH. That's ziprecruiter.com/HH. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Our show is also brought to you by Bona Floors. Bona makes it easy to care for your hardwood floors. For 100 years, Bona has partnered with flooring professionals to create innovative products for a daily clean, a timeless shine, and a lifetime of protection. When looking for the best to care for hardwood floors, use Bona Hardwood Floor Cleaner. The residue-free, fast-drying solution is specially formulated to clean hardwood floors by gently and effectively removing dust, dirt, and grime to reveal the floor's natural shine and beauty. It comes ready to use, you guys. You just spray it and mop it. Water-based solutions and Green Guard Gold certification ensure a safe product for your family, your pets, and our planet. For the most thorough clean, use Bona Hardwood Floor Cleaners with Bona's premium microfiber mop and microfiber cleaning pad designed exclusively to work together as a system. I personally love how easy it is to use Bona Hardwood Floor Cleaner. The cleaning pad is perfect for quickly cleaning up messes that my kids and the dogs might track into our house between those times that the house cleaner comes. The kids love this chore. Well, they think that it's easy and it's fun, and I don't sweat them from doing it because it's residue-free, it's fast-drying. It's basically a win for everybody. Bona Hardwood Floor Cleaner is available at most retailers where floor cleaning products are sold, on Amazon and on Bona.com. There are also products available for your other hard surface floors like stone, tile, laminate, and vinyl. For cleaning tips and exclusive offers, visit Bona.com/happy hour. That's BONA.com/happy hour. Our show today is also brought to you by Simple Seminary. You guys, I am so excited to tell you about Simple Seminary. Do you ever feel like everyone in your Bible study knows more than you? Or maybe you've always wanted to study the Bible more in depth, but you can't afford to go to seminary. Or more than that, you just can't find the time because of all the things in your life. Simple Seminary is the perfect way for you to take your Bible knowledge to the next level. My friend Whitney Capps, who, side note, is going to be joining us on the Happy Hour later this year, she has created an online space for you to learn in a safe, judgment-free environment as she becomes your personal professor through the Bible. Simple Seminary will help you see connections by teaching complex concepts like, what were the dinosaurs all about anyways? And what does Revelation actually mean? You'll see progress that grows your faith and helps you confidently study and share biblical truth. You guys, I'm going to be jumping into a session with Whitney and learning right along with you. When she told me about this in the show that comes out later in the year, I was floored and I thought, I want to know more about this. So I want you to know about this as well. Registration is now open and it costs only $24 a month. You guys, that's $6 a week. With what I'm buying in iced coffee from Starbucks right now, I can afford to pay for 7 of us. Just kidding. But it's only $24 a month. So for more information on how to join Whitney Capps and Simple Seminary, click the link in the show notes or check out simpleseminary.org. Simple Seminary holds your hand and holds you accountable as you make real progress towards understanding Scripture. That's Simple Seminary. Seminary is SEMINARY.org. Okay, guys, back to the show with my friend Rebekah. Okay, so you, Rebekah Lyons, have a new book coming out October 1st, Rhythms of Renewal, Trading Stress and Anxiety for a Life of Peace and Purpose. I think I read somewhere, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think I read somewhere that these words that you birthed in these pages came out of maybe a kind of a surprise anxiety attack that you thought you were done with.
Right. Yes.
Did I read that right?
Yeah.
So almost this moment of, I thought I was past this.
Yeah.
Tell me about what that looked like and how that came to pass.
Well, when we moved to New York in 2010, I had panic disorder about 4 months in for the next year and a half. And then I'll never forget the moment where I just cried out for rescue, and the peace of Christ flooded my heart. And it was the first time I didn't have to run from a panic, like from the situation for it to subside. It just was done.
So normally you would deal with them in a different way.
Well, because panic attacks were always started out of claustrophobia. So anytime I was
And you lived in New York City?
Yeah.
Okay.
So on a plane, train, elevator, subway, and crowd.
Your house, 1,000 square feet?
Yeah.
Does that count?
Basically. Well, only because we had a lot of windows.
Okay, yeah.
But I had to get on the elevator every time I would go, or just take the stairs, which I did a lot.
Yeah.
7 flights or 9 flights. It just depended on the situation. Gotcha. So I didn't gain any weight in New York because I was basically afraid of small spaces.
Small spaces. I like this.
But I started a healing journey. The Lord started a healing journey, that year after that. And I began to write about it and teach about it and talk about the rescue of God in Psalm 18, and just was so transformed by that season. I really did not have another panic attack for 6 years. And then
from that moment when you said, I felt God.
Yeah. It was the middle of the night. Came out of a dream, and I woke with my heart racing. And so for a lot of people, there's different levels, varying levels of anxiety. You can have stress but over time, stress you'll start to feel physical symptoms of it. I talk about that in the book. 77% of society feel physical symptoms now of stress, which then eventually is labeled anxiety because you have shallow breathing, your heart's racing, you can't.
I've experienced this. Yeah. And call my doctor. I think I'm having a heart attack.
Yeah. So the panic, it escalates into a panic moment when you feel trapped, and if you don't escape, you'll die. It's almost like as fearful as if you're being held at gunpoint, but there's no logic behind it.
Okay.
So on a plane, I would be like, if I don't get off this plane, I'm literally going to
You can't get off a plane.
But you can't, right? And so that's how my first panic attack began. And then all of a sudden, God puts me on a plane every week to talk about the rescue of God. So it's like the irony of that's not lost on me. So that's why it was surprising, obviously, to have this moment. So I begin this third book with that story, that relapse moment, and how it was so intense, probably the most intense panic attack I'd ever had, and how helpless.
Where were you?
Sorry. I was in a bathroom stall in a 100-year-old home over the Pacific. And Gabe and I were hosting a retreat because we do that kind of every few months with some of the work he does. And we were hosting probably 30 people, and they'd all gone in town, Carmel by the Sea. And this home was, literally made of solid rock and stone. It was so old and beautiful, and we were just, a friend let us use this space. And I said, go ahead, I'll meet you, because we were just taking a break between some sessions. And I said, I'll meet you. I'm just going to get a moment alone because my ambivert was starting to go off and I need a little time. And so I go to the restroom, latch the door, and it's just a little stall. It's like the little toilet stall inside of a bigger bathroom, but it was the walls were 10, 12 inches thick everywhere. And the heavy wooden door is those legit 100-year-old doors. Yeah. And my phone just powered off at 30% because it was needing replaced for a while now. And the door wouldn't open and I couldn't call anyone. And no one was going to come back to the house for 2 hours. I was supposed to be meeting them in 30 minutes. I said, just go on ahead. And so they'd all left. Nobody was around. I couldn't yell, nothing. So picture that.
Yeah, I'm
and immediately, when I'm you see the panic starting and you're trying to hold it down while you're trying to turn the lock, but the lock's not working. It's like jiggling, but it's old. Nothing's working. And then I look up and I see this tiny little window at the top of the stall. And it's like little rounded top, vintage looking. And I thought, can I fit through that thing?
Yeah.
And I was able to. I hoisted onto
That's how
the
you
toilet.
got out.
I hoisted onto the toilet, and I was like, are these hips going to like? I don't know if I can actually get out of here. Because it technically was probably not big enough. I did scrape like my everything, my legs and everything trying to get out. But I like once I collapsed onto the rocks below, because it was like on a cliff thing. So I had to jimmy my way out of the bathroom window and drop myself down onto these rocks. And my legs were jello and I was freaking out. And I was just like, am I a fraud? I thought this was done. Like I've been preaching all this stuff and writing and man. And it made me like so confused too. But I try to relive it for Gabe. And of course, it's less dramatic when you never have to deal with these things.
Right.
And that night in bed, I remember just like, I couldn't stop crying. Like, what is this about? Because in some ways, there's shame when you give way to fear, like that incredibly intense. Because I did. I was all in. I was like jumping in the deep end of fear right then.
Yeah.
And God just said, I don't promise that fear won't come knocking, but I always promise a way of escape. And it really shifted the way I saw emotional, mental health, anxiety, depression, because I think sometimes in the church we talk about things once they're buttoned up. And that because, Christ is in us, the hope of glory, like that there actually won't be ever a temptation or opposition coming at us. But that's actually not biblical at all.
At all.
No. And it wasn't because I lacked faith. And it wasn't because I wasn't, walking close with God. It was really just because there was a moment where God needed to remind me again that like, I don't promise that suffering won't happen. I don't promise that hardship won't come, but I am Emmanuel and I'm with you always. And in the being with you, I'll make a way of escape, like that you will be able to bear it. Now, granted,
you had like a physical representation of that as well. This whole make a way to escape thing.
Yeah. It was like, I needed the lesson. I needed the kind of just the illustration of it. I need to be reminded, like, it might look like a small dinky window that your hips aren't going to fit through, but he makes a way of escape. So, and I think about a lot of addictions or relapse or things like that. Health and sobriety looks like one day at a time, right?
Yeah.
And
sometimes
I would say
1 hour at a time. Yeah.
And I think coming out of like a history with anxiety or chronic crippling, or people who just feel stressed, like that's still one day at a time, 1 hour at a time. Your reaction to everything matters in the moment. And so for me, it's been more just about how do we invite them into the every moment that we're tempted to kind of fly off? Because we're going to all have our reactions. Mine turns into that out of fear. But it was really more of this invitation to go, okay, like walking with you is what this is about, not me figuring it out and moving on.
Yeah. So I have 2 questions about what you talked about. The first one is this whole idea of feeling like a fraud. And I think that is it illustrated itself in your life in this way, but I think I can think about ways in my own life, and the listeners are probably thinking about ways of, we think in this Christian life that once we're better, we check it off, we've accomplished that. And then when something shows back up,
right,
we can go, and especially because you're like, I've been teaching this. I mean, I've had that experience where I'm like, oh, I'm a liar.
Yeah.
That this is not true. God, what have you done?
Right.
But how did you get through on the other side of that, of not feeling as though, oh, I'm a fraud
because the fraud is a lie. That's shame, right? Am I a fraud is just shame bullying you, going, yeah, you are a fraud, but that's absolutely not true. And that's what the enemy will do with like a misstep, is like, oh, see,
you can't.
You never really meant it.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to sustain this. And it's really just to shut you up so that you actually can't forge through and go, no, actually, I'm glad in some ways for this. I'm glad for the misstep because it helps me keep super humble and super empathetic with everyone who I teach or walk along. I'm like, this is not the story of a girl who's figured it out. This is a girl who is walking this right next to you. You're not alone in it. Temptation is real. Accusation is real. Like bullying from the enemy is real. And none of us are immune to it. And the minute we start to think that we're exempt, like we're going to fall flat on our face.
Yeah. And I think the stumbling too in like the Christian life and whatever it is for you, I think the stumbling is this unique opportunity to be able to seriously trust God that he's going to continue to be with you. Because my flesh says if I stumble, he's going to bail.
Right.
Because that's what humans do. Like in relationships, they shouldn't always be that way, but you can see humanity can do that. Oh, you mess up, I'm out. And so we can kind of put that on God, the Father, of if I stumble, he's going to look at me and say, I can't handle it. He'll abandon us.
But it was God that day that actually was the voice of comfort. And so it was the accusation of the enemy that says you're a fraud. But God's like, no. He's like, you can focus on that, or you can focus that I'm always here and I'm with you to the end of the age, and I will offer a way of escape because I'm not going anywhere. Yeah. And that is so secure, right? We are daughters of God. We want to know that our Father is not going to just like bail, and we're going to be sitting in that stall, circling the stall. And that was a powerful moment for me, and it really shaped and changed and shifted the way I even see my faith and my dependency on Him. Yeah.
So what did it look like for you days, months, couple of months after that experience of fighting off that shame, trusting that God is not going to abandon you and that he's the comfort for you? I know that's what birthed these words for you, but what did that look like over the next couple of months in your life?
Well, it was almost like the last book I wrote was on like freedom, like you are free, like the rescue or being pulled from the pit or whatever that is. And I think we all have those supernatural moments in our lives where like all of a sudden we're like, wow, finally that broke. But then this book is about how to live free, because I think he's like, come on, get away with me and you'll recover your life. So this is more about a cadence of going, I'm still not going to promise if fear won't come knocking, but part of this is when I'm with you, like, let's live into these God-blessed rhythms that I actually made you for. Because often our anxiety is already at, it's ramped before we even get into that bathroom stall.
For sure.
Because,
and can you look back and see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I was traveling every weekend from September to May, and I was too many early flights and super tired and not connecting with my people enough. And I was already spread
I can look back
thin.
on things like that and be like, oh, and then no wonder I'm in my backyard feeling like I'm having a heart attack.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we do that to ourselves. And I've had to really get behind it and go, why do I push so hard? What am I trying to prove? Is there a wound there that's like my significance is only attached to this? So I've had to take that back to God a lot. And I don't know that it's over, right? Because you'll have a good day or good season and then you're feeling all on top of the world.
I can handle this.
You're like, this is amazing. And then yet it's not balanced. And that's the goal of these rhythms, is that you take seriously the practice of rest and you restore. You get that input back in your body before you go back out and connect and create.
Has joy coming into your family helped you with these rest and rhythms?
Yes. I feel like I benched myself professionally these last 9 months in the best of ways. I would have probably taken the whole year off if I didn't have a book party that I was contracted to do, because it's been about 7 years since I started, and I was like, he's pretty clear on how to rest the land after 7 years. So maybe this is my turn. And I was really grateful for it. And so he knew even bring joy home. He's like, you're going to need to lay this down, and you need to be okay saying no to stuff and walking away. And you need to get over your idolatry of like maybe being respected or admired or have a reputation of someone who contributes to things and who's
that's tough stuff. Digging up those wounds. I'm hurting. Like that just is hard.
But it's good.
I walked in that,
it's good, but it wasn't fun.
No,
I'll be honest.
No, turning of that soil is always hard, but it results in beautiful things. Yeah. Okay, so that led to Rhythms of Renewal.
Yeah.
And so in your beautiful cover, by the way, I have to tell you that, you have 4 rhythms that you talk about. Rest, restore, connect, and create. And what I just noticed at first glance looking at them, and I want to hear some thoughts about it, are that the first 2 feel internal.
Yeah.
And the last 2 feel
external.
Yeah.
Yeah, so their input and output is kind of how I refer to it. So rest and restore. And I start with rest because if you can't get that right, everything else crumbles. Right? And so rest and restore are the filling back up. So rest is it's for your spiritual health, like your inner life, the reflection, time with God, solitude. Restore is your physical life, so your physical health. So it's all about the body and being active and what are you eating and, are you playing? And just like I love how Jesus invites us into the movement. He's like, I study this because I want science in every chapter, just data and research where we are now culturally, and then pairing that with faith of words of scripture, because it all goes together. And I study that Jesus probably, some people say he walked about 3,300 miles in the 3 years he ministered.
Holy cow.
That's no joke. When he said, follow me, he literally meant like, no, stand up and walk with me and follow me right now. And
he got his steps
and I was like, he was not sitting in a cubicle, 20 hours or 60 hours a week. And I know that we all have different circumstances that require it, but it did challenge me a lot to go, okay, God, you're right. I'm going to get out in creation. I'm going to talk to you. And I noticed this about you, Jamie, when you're like, do your little stories on walks, because I read a chapter, Take a Walk, and what walking actually does for our bodies. And it's just amazing. I even got a treadmill desk when I started writing this book. Yes. And so to me, walking is one of the best things for your body. Sleep is a superpower. So I write about sleep. I write so that those two input rhythms are vital before you go back out.
We live in a very fast-paced culture. I mean, it's crazy. I look back at how different things are, even for us as parents, than my parents. I mean, I don't think they had as many responsibilities as we did. They just we're raising kids. Now we're raising kids and we're a part of this and a part of that. And sometimes I'm like, oh, let's just go back to where we don't have all these things. But to say that, I feel like this rest and restore, sometimes these are super difficult for women because a lot of times also we feel like we take on the weight of the house and the kids. And if anything's going to get done, I got to do it.
Right.
Have you struggled in that area?
Yes. And that's when the overwhelm comes in. I mean, I'll look at laundry and all of a sudden I'll just fade to black.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
I'm like, why am I just completely stressing about this idea of just turning the laundry washing machine on? But really that's also because the overwhelming is already ramped up to here because I haven't actually paused for myself. Yeah. And so I read a chapter called Morning Routine, like how I started the day now looks different than it did 5 years ago. And how much I'm intentional to walk is different than it was. Because now I come back with more energy to tackle stuff if I do the rest and restore first. If I'm eating right, if I'm moving, if I'm getting that solitude, which is different than loneliness. Solitude, you're with God. You're not just escaping and vegging out. And I also, there's only so many hours a day. I don't have a lot of capacity to binge on TV. I'm not saying that's good or bad at all. It's more just for me to have the stamina that I need to do what we need to do for 4 kids, 2 with different abilities. It's just requiring pretty much all 24 hours to be pretty strategic. Yeah. And to have energy. And I write about taking my family through Whole30 and how it's partly because I was just...
the kids too?
Oh, yeah. And they were less than excited, but they stuck with it. And it actually did change the way we started eating as a family. Yeah. But I was ready to crawl back in bed at 3 p.m. when they'd get home. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm your mom, and I hope you had a great day at school, but I am crashing. I'm crashing.
Yeah. So what did you change about your morning routine? This is what I'm interested in.
Yeah, well, I would have to get up before they got up.
This is hard.
It is hard. I was never a morning person.
Yeah, I'm not either.
And I'm proud of you that you're not, because it proves you're getting more sleep than I am.
So you get up before your kids?
I do. And I kind of have 4 things I do. And it's really just, I start in the position of release. So I kneel. I just palms up, just kneel.
Where do you do this?
It's either my closet or the living room.
Okay.
Living room's a little more comfortable because it's got a rug.
Yeah.
In my closet, I try to make a palette. It just
I'll just find all the clothes that are on the floor that I need to hang up. Yeah.
But kneeling is such an exhale pause. And so you kind of lay it down. You just slowly release. And then I just slowly start giving thanks and praise. You're awesome. Even though I might be swirling with a bunch of tasks in my head, I need to just pause that by just telling you who you are. Because if I fix my eyes on you, you promise I will keep her in perfect peace, whose eyes are fixed on me because she trusts in me. So that peace is going to override the crazy list that's going in my head right now before I even get the day started. Yeah. And so it recenters me, and then I go into just scripture. I go into journaling for sure, because reflection's a big deal. It doesn't have to be a lot. It could be yesterday sucked. Yeah. Or period. Today's a new day.
Yeah. His mercies are new.
Yeah.
End of story.
Amen. Uh-huh. So, but it's just enough to be in tune with what happened yesterday. And I've talked a lot about that book, Every Moment Holy by Douglas McKelvey. And full of liturgy and it's everyday stuff. And he has one for over morning coffee. And so I read that almost every morning and I put it in the book. Wow. He gave me permission. Yeah. So just that kind of that fullness of that gratitude journal, prayer, and scripture. It's nothing new, but I just kind of outline the way
it just sets your day up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just something about a quiet house, you really do feel like you're not being rushed. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be long, but it just needs to be
intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel that too if I do get up before the kids, which has happened every day this summer. I mean, they're sleeping in and I'm getting up and it is nice. Sometimes they're not even up when I come home from a walk and it just feels like, walking's been really good for me.
I'm so proud of you, girl.
I am proud of myself too. I was a runner my whole life and I have some back issues and so I can't run anymore. So walking, I've had to get over that I feel like a loser.
You don't?
No, because I used to run.
Oh.
And so for me, walking's like, oh, you're a loser. Yeah. So I had to bury that and just feel like I'm doing something for my body. And I feel better when I come home. So,
well, one of our dearest friends in Nashville, Ben Crane, is a PGA golfer and he's been doing it for forever. So he's like the most professional athlete that we personally, and he goes, walking is the best thing you can do. Better than running.
Thank you, Ben.
Better than anything. Because everything else gets hard on your body and then you have injuries and then you got to make up for that. But walking, and then I write a lot in that chapter how it stirs your creativity. If you have a writer block, you have to get out and you'll work it out because it's subconscious because you're just walking and then your brain starts connecting the dots.
I've always done that. Even before I was doing what I do now, when I would be on runs, I would always think of things like, and then I'd put them in my notes because it gets your brain moving.
Yeah. I love it.
Okay. So then you have the output.
Yeah, output or connect and create. And this reminds me a lot of you. I think I love asking people, what do you think your healthiest rhythm is? Because we're all going to have one that's just more effortless for us. It's more kind of in our wheelhouse of personality. And it's not it just means we probably need to give some attention to the other three so that they don't get neglected or we start to stress. But connection is all about relational health. So, whether it's your spouse or your children, or if you're single, obviously your friendships, your community, your workplace. So chapters in that section are more like lead with vulnerability and apologize first. There's one on conflict resolution, one on friendship, marriage, love the one you're with, and that takes a lot of intention 22 years in.
Isn't that a country song?
I
love the one you're with.
I think it is.
It should be, if not.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And then the last one is create, and that's vocational health. So it's like the call or the purpose or the passion. And there's just really practical stuff like working with your hands or taking a class or learning something new, taking a risk. One's pulling weeds, it's like recover your passion. And my kids are like, you think that pulling weeds is your passion? I was like, no, that wasn't the point of the chapter. Because I made them pull weeds last week.
Yeah.
They're like, this is not my passion.
This is not my
Mom.
passion. I can guarantee you that.
I was like, trust me, it's not mine either. That was not the point.
But
it's to pull away the things that actually cloud your passion. Yeah. So it was a fun book. Hard. It took me 15 months to write.
Are you serious?
Because of all the research I did. Yeah.
Okay, so I am a really big fan of this, and I don't think I've ever told you this publicly. I'll tell you publicly because you should encourage people publicly. That's what we should do in our life. You're one of my favorite Bible teachers to sit under.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Serious?
Yeah.
That's crazy because I've only gone to kitchen seminary.
Kitchen seminary. That's the best seminary.
My kitchen island.
Yeah. That's me as well. So, but I love everything that you're doing with your life, and it's fun to watch your family on Instagram, and it's just been. I really respect and admire the way that 40. What'd you say you are? 44?
I'm 45.
45.
Girl. Just owning it.
But like I'm owning. Yeah. I love it. Like I'm like, this is what we're doing. Yeah. This is what we're made for. I'm not. Who cares?
I know. I wrote 45 in my journal on May 12th. That's my birthday. And I remember like a couple weeks prior, I was like, oh, I'm 45. And then I wrote it and I was like 45. And I immediately felt prompted to go like, girl, stop acting like you're so old. You might only be halfway done.
That's exactly right.
And God was just kind of gave me a little like hand slap, like, come on. You could have still half of your life ahead of you. Why are you acting like you're tired all the time? And I was like, I guess I had to take these rhythms seriously because we have a 6-year-old with Down syndrome who we might, you never know what like life will look like for her as an adult. And I was like, babe, we gotta get our house in order.
We gotta get our rest and renewal down.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. I'm like, man, let's say we get 80 years. That means we have half of our life left.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Oh my gosh.
That's amazing.
I really only started living life 10 years ago, so I'm so happy about that.
I know. Well, you're making up for lost time.
I know.
He's redeeming the time for you, girl.
This is great. Okay, Rebekah, I didn't set you up for this, but I always like to ask people what they're loving these days. Do you have any I'm loving this makeup, these shoes, this whatever, what do you love? What are you loving these days that you would want to text your girlfriend and say, you got to know about this?
Oh, that's such a good question. Well,
I can point out 17 things that you have on your body right now that I'm loving about you, but you go for you.
Yeah, I love joggers. I like heeled, like wedge tennis shoes. As far as clothing, I did finally watch a makeup tutorial the other night. I got sucked in on Instagram. And I was like, oh, so that's how you do the highlighter and the bronzer and the blush. I don't know. I'm going to see if I can figure that out. And my daughter's eye rolling / laughing because she's 14 and she's watched these things before.
For sure. This is her life.
We got a pool last summer. And yeah, it's praise God, because, Nashville is like a swamp a little bit in the summertime. And Joy, completely independent swimming within 4 months. So I'm loving just us all together out there in the evenings, and she's just literally doing somersaults in the deep end underwater, like she's a synchronized swimmer.
Yeah.
And her and Cade laughing so much. I'm also loving, this will be the last thing. So I'm loving reading bedtime stories again. So we pile in the room, and Cade now wants to sleep. She's still in a toddler bed, and he's in the queen bed because it used to be our guest room, but now it's hey, Joy and guest room. So he's now wanting to sleep down there. And then Gabe will come in, and Kennedy and Pierce, they're all piling on this queen bed while I read Belly Button Book or Goodnight Moon or whatever. And and then when they start singing Twinkle, Twinkle at the top of their lungs, Cade and Joy together, and then we all harmonize, it literally makes me want to cry, because there's something about it that just goes, this is what it's about, right? Just the daily rhythm, cadence of every night. We're going to meet back here. Mom's not going to feel shame that she worked today, because we're going to have these moments of connection that Joy can count on and Cade can count on, and honestly, that I can count on.
Yeah.
So I'm loving the simple things of home, of us being together, because Pierce has only got 2 more years, and we're not going to talk about that.
So he is a sophomore?
Junior.
Okay, yeah. I have a sophomore this year.
Yeah.
I could cry in a second thinking about him leaving. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just we keep thinking that we have all this time, and we don't. And so we don't have to freak about it, but we just need to take advantage of it.
For sure.
So that's what I'm trying to do.
Well, Rebekah, thank you so much. You guys, her book comes out October 1st, which is right around the corner. Rhythms of Renewal, Trading Stress and Anxiety for a Life of Peace and Purpose. And if this book is not what we need in our lives right now, I don't know what else is. So thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me, friend. Love you.
Friends, I truly appreciate Rebekah's honesty and her heart for God. I told her in the show she's one of my favorite teachers, and she really is. I hope you are walking away from today's happy hour encouraged and inspired to look at the areas in your own life that are in need of a renewal. If you follow me over on Instagram, you may know that I have been trying to do this over the last couple of months. I'm trying to move my body every day. I'm trying to make sure that I'm in God's word every day. I'm taking breaks from social media to help me rest in the things that I know are good and true for me, which is God's word and his presence. Rebekah's book, Rhythms of Renewal, is available on October 1st, but that means that you still have time to pre-order. And when you pre-order Rebekah's book before October 1st, she has some goodies for you. Check it out at RebekahLyons.com. Also, Rebekah and her husband, Gabe, have launched a podcast related to this topic of renewal called Everyday Rhythms. And you're a listener of podcasts because you're right here listening to me. So it's fun to tell you new shows. So be sure and check it out and look for an interview they did with me coming up soon. Today's show was edited by Chris with Podshaper, and the music was developed for the show by Matt Graham. Show notes are written by Aki Slockers, and this whole thing is organized by Lindsay Sweeney. Next week, my guest is my friend Latasha Morrison. Latasha is a diversity expert, unity champion, bridge builder, truth teller, grace giver. I love this friend, and I cannot wait for you to hear our conversations. I have learned so much from her. I'm continuing to learn from her. I want to be a student of everything she's teaching. So if you don't already know her, go check her out on Instagram. It's at Latasha Morrison. Guys, enjoy your week. Share the show with a girlfriend. If you're at IFLEAD, please come say hi. Have a happy hour with a friend, and I will see you guys back here next week with my friend Latasha Morrison.